I have here two modern classic motorbikes, but this one costs about 4 times as much as that one. Was it 4 times as good? Yeah, here's a comparison which I wasn't sure about and I may never actually release, in which case at the moment I'm just speaking into the void, but if I am releasing it, if it's a bit pointless and silly, bear with me. But I thought I might as well get them together because this bike I've got on test for about a week from Honda, and this is mine. It's on a PCP, so technically it's not mine, but this is a Norton Commando 961, which I am currently PCPing for all of £20 a month. But if you buy it full cash price, the price has been fluctuating a bit with various deals going on, so who knows how much it is by the time I come and make this, but the original RRP was about 17 grand. So yeah, roughly 4 times as much as this GB350S from Honda, which is all of 4 grand. Now, obviously you're getting a lot more, just everything really for your money here. You've got more sophisticated suspension, you've got double the cylinder count, and you do have, funnily enough, about 4 times the power. So 4 times the price, 4 times the power. Quite a bit more torque as well, and just a lot, you know, more blingy stuff. There's a plane going overhead. What is that? Is that a Hawker Hurricane? Or I think it might be. But yeah, well, also having a lot of nice bits. This kind of has a lot of less nice bits and a few kind of slightly more questionable, you know, build quality choices. Whereas, you know, this is a Honda, so it's all screwed together really nicely. That's the kind of irony of it. But what I wanted to get these together to kind of discuss really is, if you're getting a modern classic bike, don't you want it to kind of be as simple as possible and just kind of evoke that old school, you know, distilling motorcycling to its most simple element of just kind of bimbling around and having a lovely day out, you know, in the countryside and just being outdoors, in which case this kind of should do everything you need to do. It's like, do you really need to spend all the extra and get all the stuff this is coming with? And also, there's a question of, you know, is this the kind of bike that Norton should be making? Maybe they will. There are all these new bikes which are coming tail end of this year. I know we've got some bougie stuff coming, like a new V4, but yeah, maybe TVS, Norton's owners, might look to leverage its massive, you know, Indian manufacturing capability to make something a bit more affordable like this. I mean, you know, it works for Triumph, there's bougie stuff and cheap stuff. Works for Honda, so maybe it'll work for Norton. What we'll do is we'll switch some voiceover of me doing some spec comparisons because I'll probably, you know, not be able to remember all of it. Once we've done that, we'll go and ride it, and yeah, hopefully this won't just be a complete waste of everyone's time, which probably, you know, describes most of my videos anyway. The Commando is powered by a 961cc pushrod parallel twin with a 270-degree crank. It produces 79 brake horsepower at 7,250 RPM and 81 Nm of torque at 6,300. It's much heavier than the Honda, with a wet weight of 230 kilos compared to just 178. But the Honda only has a little 348cc single-cylinder engine, producing a much more modest 21 brake horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 29 Nm of torque at 3,000 RPM. I think the thing that, you know, made me want to get those two bikes together, aside from the fact that I happen to have both of them on my garage and I thought, why not, is, you know, it's stuff like this where I'm just pottering around, enjoying the scenery, enjoying the weather, enjoying just being outside generally. You know, on a motorbike, making nice rumbly noises and vibrations. I can do that on this in exactly the same way as I can the Norton. I don't know if I'm finding it any, you know, the sort of kind of low speed stuff any less enjoyable. That maybe obviously sounds a bit better when it's rumbling away. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I like to use the Norton for, and this is supplying me with the same sort of thing, but for, you know, a lot less money, frankly, and probably better reliability. Having, you know, just had it go back to the dealer for an oil leak. The Norton this is. Alright, so here we go. I'll put the visor down. That is full twist, and as you can see, the speed is not going up that quickly. But that's fine. I don't like thinking that, oh, this is so slow. Because it is like quite a nice characterful engine. I think they gave it that long stroke. Honda said, obviously, to give it more flow and torque, but I think they described it as a soulful engine, and yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that actually. I think some of these low powered singles can be a bit dull, but this is actually really nice. And I know you're probably looking at it and thinking, Jesus, that's barely any more than you get from a learner legal A1 bike, 125. which is true, but in terms of torque you get a lot more than you're allowed on a 125, so it doesn't, you know, it feels a lot faster than that. That's what you're really riding on this, is you're riding the torque. Yeah, and actually I know this doesn't have top end bougie Öhlins components, but what they've done with, you know, some pretty cheap suspension componentry is actually really impressive. I thought it was just kind of being soft and wallowy, and while it's not mega firm, getting plenty of support from this damping. I'm going over bumps and lumps, and you know, it's dealing with them, yeah, really nicely actually. It settles well afterwards. Steers alright as well. I think obviously the low-ish weight figure, 178 kilos at the curb, that helps. Yeah, I mean obviously, you know, it's going to take you a bit longer to accelerate out of bends and accelerate, oh, that always bounces me out the seat, whatever bike I'm on. Yeah, it's going to take longer to get you up to the national speed limit, it's going to take longer to take you out of corners, but when it's stuff like this where you just kind of sat at 60 or so, and you're just threading through some bends, well, I don't think I feel any less satisfied on this than I do the Norton. In terms of how kind of retro-y, that's the one thing of the brakes, so much nicer than the Norton. I haven't ridden it in a few weeks where it's been away, and my first ride of it will be when I film on it after I've got off this. But yeah, even with a few weeks apart, I know that the brakes are so much nicer than that. But obviously you've got far nicer Brembo componentry on that one. Really nice bar. There's a bit of a dead spot in the leather, but then the feel after that is lovely. Whereas this, there's sort of like a dead spot there, and then from here onwards, there's really not a whole lot of modulation in it. It's just kind of, it feels really firm, and I don't know, it's a entire cliche of it feeling wooden, but it actually does. It kind of feels like there's just, don't know, I want just a bit more give in the leather. Not a massive complaint, but as well, I think when you are, a few times when I've, like, you know, changed my mind of where I'm going, or I've almost missed I've spotted a junction that I want to go down a bit too late, you find yourself braking, not like, you know, emergency stop levels, but give them a good squeeze. You do feel like you do have to give them a good squeeze for much to happen. I have found myself doing a bit of rear brake as well. Often, I must be honest, I don't tend to bother other than like trail braking, but coming to a stop I don't tend to use the rear a whole lot, but I have found myself doing so in this, just to get a bit more braking force. Yeah, ABS, much like the Norton actually, ABS is really as complicated as it gets in terms of electronics. This does also have a slip and assist clutch, which the Norton does not, I want to say. Yeah, both super simple bikes. It's just that, you know, the Honda kind of has a price to reflect that, whereas the Norton, where it's got flashier bits on it and nicer componentry, is quite expensive. But it kind of makes you wonder, maybe could they have done a slightly less bougie version, which, no, hang on, fuck it. I can actually film overtakes on this because I'm not doing, you know, speeds that I don't want to film when I'm doing them, because you can't get there. Yeah, this will sit at 70 on a dual carriageway, but you're basically anything vaguely resembling a hill when you are pinned. So this is fourth. I wouldn't want to be in fifth, going up kind of any slight incline of this, because it does struggle. And generally, you know, the amount of performance you get is just fine. No more than that, but yeah, it's acceptable. Yeah, just takes over 100 miles I've done this. 100 miles that have been very pleasant. Mirrors actually look quite similar, don't they? I've got a set of cheap bar ends, which I think will just improve the looks of the Norton to no end. These aren't great of seeing out of, actually. You've got a choice of seeing either your shoulders or a bush. I think they just needed to be slightly further out than they actually are. But yeah, it's fine. Overall, I found this very enjoyable. It's kind of like, it's good, clean fun. I don't find myself feeling like I need to ride like too much of a nutter. It's just, I'm just kind of happily plodding along. you know, when you do want to kind of steer a little bit quicker, not like that because that was plodding along, but yeah, whenever you do want to, oh, hello. Well, you've at least got enough horsepower to get past some earth moving equipment that everyone else is stuck behind because they can't get their cars around it. Mountain bike's great, not just because of that, but you know, many reasons. Yeah, now the other thing with this being a bit cheaper as well is it's a bike that you could use at the weekends, and I think you'd be quite happily, like, you know, commuting into an urban area with it. The Norton, I don't think you dare, because, you know, oh yeah, it's coming up to here. I just feel like I'm having to give it a good old squeeze, and it gets to a point where they're just, yeah, I want more modulation in the leather. Anyway, I'll stop moaning about that. But yeah, no, the last time I rode into London on a bike, it was a KTM, it was a press bike, and yeah, came back. I locked it up, I covered it, I put, you know, really good lock on it as well, so I thought no one's nicking this, and I came back to find that a van had come around the corner, misjudged it, and basically knocked over the entire row of bikes that were parked up there. If your Norton's going to be in the middle of that, there are so many nice chromy bits or whatever that are just going to get absolutely ruined. The other thing is as well, there's so many like polished bare metal surfaces, you've got to be super careful riding it in winter that you don't get corrosion. This, there are a few shiny bits, but I mean, you know, it's all a bit more simple in its build quality, and also, you know, it's a cheaper bike to start with, so I think you're just going to generally feel less precious about it. So yeah, it can be your commuting thing at the week, and then you can go off on a ride like this at the weekend. Duality, what's not to like? The build quality is kind of an interesting one actually, because obviously this is, you know, it's very Honda, and by which I mean it's built well from not particularly nice components. Apart from that, why is that not lined up? That's really upsetting me. Quite triggered by that. But yeah, switch cubes and stuff like that, all quite simple. Levers are nothing fancy at all, but it's all, apart from that bit, screwed together really well. The Norton obviously has got very, you know, some really nice stuff on it, but it's also got some weirdly cheap bits. Like the mirrors are, you know, like I say, no better than this, and this is a bike which costs a third of the amount, and yeah, it's got the indicators are a bit naff on it. I mean, something like this is like kind of little slimline. Are they LEDs? I think they're LEDs. You know, I think a modern classic like that, I think it's fine to have, you know, something a bit more modern. The ones on it just look a bit cheap and nasty. What else is there on there that I don't like on the Norton? We'll come back to that one on the Norton, but yeah, there is something to be said for, well, yeah, power aside, this kind of giving you 80% of the experience of something like a Norton Commando for a fraction of the price. I guess yeah, what are you looking for from your bike? Are you just looking for something that kind of looks nice and you can pot it around on it and is a bit kind of classic, but you know it's going to start in the morning? In which case, yeah, the Honda's got you more covered there, because like I say, Honda reliability is always going to trump hand-built Norton reliability. Alright, I think that's sufficient yabbering on about this. Let's switch over to the Norton, and I'll try and come up with something resembling I'll come up with something vaguely resembling a worthwhile conclusion, so you haven't wasted all your time. So, traded our GB350S for something which costs 4 times as much, but as mentioned in the intro, it does have 4 times the power, so I guess that's kind of fair. And actually immediately, just in the cockpit, you see where a lot of the extra money is going. You've got the bullet machine, the triple clamp, you've got the nicely etched Norton logo here, and obviously, you know, we can see the nice golden glow of the Olin suspension. But then there are bits which are less nice, which I mentioned earlier, like indicators. They do feel cheap, and they're kind of on these little these little brackets that kind of look like they're made from a Meccano set or something. But mostly it's all very nice. I'll tell you what else I'm noticing from the off is just the quirks of the ergonomics of this thing, which I kind of forget. I've not been in it for a few weeks. I had to go back to the dealer for an oil leak. There you go. How authentic is that as an old bike? It even leaks oil like an old bike. So yeah, that went back, got fixed, and I'm on this, and I'm remembering now how stretched out you are on it, and then also how spread-eagled you end up being, is your legs do sit weirdly wide. It's quite a quirky bike ergonomically, and yeah, of course it does feel quite a lot quicker. Not drastically so, I must say, because it's not a massively powerful bike, as you know, in the grand scheme of things. It's quite heavy as well, it's 230 kilos, so yeah, you're getting a lot more power, but you're also going up what must be somewhere around 40 kilos in weight compared to the GB350S. Character, obviously there's so much more from this thing. I guess it's more kind of authentic, if you like, as in that old bike experience, not just because of the fact it's been pissing all on my garage, but also because it has, you know, quite an old school push-rod engine, and Jesus, is it vibey. You normally associate the singles being the one you'd expect more vibey, but I suppose it helps in that case the relatively small capacity engine. But yeah, this thing, this twin, I don't think it's not through your wrists that's the problem, it's what you get through your legs. Well, I say this tends to be kind of like a Sunday little fun squirt kind of bike, but I have taken a couple of longer journeys, and yeah, I mean, it really takes about an hour for you to get tired of the vibiness. I was hoping to take this on a bit of a UK tour, but yeah, the recall kind of got in the way of that. Yeah, definitely appreciating the increased overtaking potential of this one. Also, you know, with the weight difference, you don't feel like you can chuck it around with abandon in quite the same way as the GB350. But you know, if you do show it a bit of a firmer hand, it does feel lovely. Actually, I think there is so much. You know, I said that the GB350S was quite plush considering how cheap the suspension components must be, but obviously this, when you put proper stuff on a bike, proper roll-ins, it does feel good. Buttery smooth, and yeah, it just irons out everything nicely. Some people say these are a bit too firm straight out of the box. I found it to be fine. I've not felt the need to play with any of the adjusters. Yeah, you've got full adjustment front and rear with this. But I guess when it comes to stuff like this, kind of when you're pottering along, popping your visor up, just pottering through a village, that's where, you know, I don't know how much more, you know, is this giving me any more than the GB350S? It's just a kind of modern classic bike experience, maybe a little bit. I think just the way it kind of rumbles around and makes a bit of a noise. Obviously this is a very noisy bike. These are not Euro 5. They, yeah, what they do is they put them through the individual vehicle approval scheme. That's why they can't sell these anywhere else. And you can smell it. So yeah, when you go in your garage, it will be much more authentic because, yeah, in my case, it will have leaked oil on the floor. And yeah, you'll start it up, and yeah, it has that kind of rich, petrol-y smell. It's really a bike you have to experience, like, in terms of its smell as well as everything else. We obviously, you know, I can't really put across on YouTube very well. But trust me, it's definitely a thing. Yeah, there are certain times, particularly if I put it up a gear as well, there's the point where it does kind of sound like it wants to eat itself. Just when it sat idling earlier, actually, but I don't remember it sounding like that before. The noises it makes seems to kind of change over time. I mean, yeah, this is why I was kind of reluctant to film or, you know, potentially post this video. You may never see this. I'll maybe just be speaking into the void. But yeah, okay. Ooh, that was a bit hard. Put the rest of the gear change there. Yeah, okay, I kind of see what they want. You know, what I'm getting at is, if you do give us a bit of a poke with a stick, suddenly, yeah, you kind of think, okay, maybe I do want to spend the extra money. Of course, the irony of all this is I haven't spent the money. I'm paying, yeah, a ridiculously low amount of money for this every month from the PCP. What attracted a lot of people to these Nortons, most recently of course, was that PCP deal that was £69 a month. The funny thing is, I don't know if they still are, but when the GB350S was launched, Honda were also doing a £69 a month PCP on that, but obviously in that case it doesn't have a galactic balloon payment, and you know, by the end of it you might actually want to pay it. Because I feel like most people have got one of these on the £69 a month, £69 down, they'll be swiftly giving it back at the end, because you know, if they really wanted one they could probably go used. So I just think the residuals, once there's a load of these going back after PCP, don't know what they're going to be like. More really clubbing. I do like those, get distracted by cars. Yeah, the funny thing is as well though, in some ways this is a simpler bike. You know, look, I mean the LCD on this is, you've got your trip information, that's kind of it. Whereas, you know, you on the Honda you do actually get a gear indicator, you get a fuel gauge, you get a range indication. Do you get a range indication on this actually? I don't think you do. Forgot. Oh, you get a clock. You get a clock and you get a voltage, and that's your lot. Give it a bit of a go. It's not bad a full twist actually. It does go pretty quickly. I know a lot of people say, oh, they got 80 brake from a 960cc engine. Oh, it's underpowered. Blah blah blah. You don't really need much more than that on the road. Even my VFR, which is about 100 brake, I feel like that I can rarely go full twist in it without doing speeds, which you probably shouldn't do. Yeah, as an experience, this bike is pretty special, especially when the fuel lights comes on. Bollocks, I should have done that before I left. I suppose the question is, if I was paying cash, what would I get? The answer actually probably wouldn't be either of these. I think, yeah, GB350S. I think for me, I do want a lot more power. I know I kept saying it was kind of fun to rag it and everything, but I think it goes a bit too far the other way for me. This feels alright actually, this feels, you know, pretty good. I think what I'll probably do is go in the middle, buy something like a Triumph Speed Twin 900. That was the last launch I did in the old job. I really enjoyed that bike. A bit less power than this. It doesn't feel quite as, you know, old bikey. It's yeah, it doesn't feel quite sort of as old bikey as this. It has, you know, a water-cooled engine, not push rod obviously, because barely anything is these days apart from some Harleys. Still had lots of electronics. Yeah, I could take or leave that on a bike like this. I don't feel like it's necessary, but you know, it's nice to have the safety net. You've got much better dealer backup. You've got hopefully better reliability, and yeah, it's a lot cheaper. I think these for 17, if I was buying cash, I would struggle to justify that. But I say spending 4 on a GB350S, that would be kind of too far the other way for me in terms of the power as well. So yeah, that's what I'd do. I'd go slap bang in the middle, not slap bang, but you know, in the middle, something like that. What would you do? What do you think? Is this just I've just been wasting your time with this pointless comparison, because you know, why would you compare these two? Do you understand what I'm getting at? That, you know, the experience of just being out and about on a bike, enjoying its rumbliness and its vibes and all the rest of it, you know, you can get that on the GB350S, and you're getting much of the same experience but for a lot less. So that's the difference. Is just with this, it's when you do push it more, that's when you kind of, you know, you understand a bit more where the extra money you're going in, and obviously all the kind of detailing as well, which is very nice. But yeah, or do you think Norton should be producing a bike like that? I'm sure I did hear somewhere that supposedly there is some sort of lower cost Norton 400 coming along in the realms of that GB350S actually, or maybe more targeting more the likes of the Triumph Speed 400, which is a bike I'm yet to try, but yeah, they've been selling plenty of those. Very popular bike. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's enough comment baiting done. Yeah, please do, if you haven't been put off by this potentially silly comparison, please do like the video and subscribe, and yeah, I shall bid you adieu.